Okay, this is a great interview. Peter Attia, as much as I disagree with pretty much everything he teaches on nutrition and weight loss, the guy just has simply no idea. Absolutely no idea. Peter Attia has no idea about nutrition. He still thinks that sugar causes... He thinks sugar causes insulin resistance. He doesn't even know the metabolic pathway for insulin resistance. And this guy's an MD. And he puts himself up as a nutrition guru. He still thinks sugar causes type 2 diabetes. He still thinks sugar can cause... He thinks sugar, the sucrose molecule, can block the insulin receptor site. He still thinks that. He doesn't even understand. Anyway, but credit to him. He put up this interview with Tadej Pogacar's advisor, Inigo San Milan. I think I spelled that wrong, and this guy's a bit of a genius. And he totally owned Peter. Peter's trying to give him resistance, and Peter's trying to use all these fancy words, and this guy's just steamrolled Peter out of the podcast. But credit to Peter for putting this podcast up, because it made Peter look like an absolute idiot, nutritional idiot. So credit to Peter for putting it up, all right? Also credit to Peter for finally coming clean about his steroid usage over the years. You know, he's always claimed natty, and now he's saying, yeah, I've used stuff. So that's good on him, all right? But there's noobs out there, just, oh my God. But that just goes to prove, we'll cut to the video in a second, audio. That just goes to prove, if you speak sexy words and you tell people bacon's good, you'll get a following. I mean, you'll make people suffer, their lives will be destroyed, their quality of life will be destroyed because you're in ketosis and you can't do shit, and you crash your car, you kill cyclists, or you crash your bike, you kill relationships because you're in ketosis, your mood's dropped, your serotonin's crashed, and you have to take SSRI medications and metformin and all sorts of things that affect your sex drive, libido, and erection quality. But Pete doesn't really care about that, does he? He just cares about making the coin and having that popularity by telling people good things about their bad habits. Anyway, let's listen to the interview. It's fantastic. I'll put a link down below to the full interview if you want to listen to it.
I have never seen an athlete at the elite level adapting, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. But at the same time, I believe that it cannot be possible that thousands of people around the world who are getting into the ketogenic diet, it might be working for them, and they're making it up. So I believe there's something there. At first, when these things come up, and I say, come on, man, give me a break. But then I say, there's so many people out there. There's got to be something.
Well, there's one other data point I'll add for you. When I was on a ketogenic diet and cycling voraciously, my capacity to consume carbohydrates was much higher than what people think of as...
Hang on, what? Keto diet and eating carbohydrate. That's like, I'm a vegan and my capacity to eat steak was enhanced as a vegan. So what keto diet's no carbs, bro. Like Peter just contradicts himself all the time.
As a ketogenic diet for someone at rest. As a general rule, for somebody who's normal, about 50 grams of carbohydrates is the limit. Above that, you begin to suppress the production of beta-hydroxybutyrate. But
I love how he just, instead of just saying ketos, he says those words. He just loves throwing that jargon. And people are, oh, wow, that's a sexy jargon. Peter must be. If Peter stopped using these sexy words, he'd lose his audience so quick. People just love these sexy words. I should get better at them. But I try and talk to the layman. I try and tell people the truth. I don't get caught up in the sexy words. Maybe I should do that because people seem to love it.
I used to do lots of experiments. And at my most extreme, days when you'd have a 3-day period where you would do 100 miles each day for 3 consecutive days at very high output. So for me at the time, that might have been average power of 185 watts.
What? That's 185, dude. You're like 100 kilos. That's like, what's that? That's such low. That's low lots. Well, that's not high output, dude. I do that for like 24 hours, and I'm like 40 kilos lighter than you. But the average person listening wouldn't have a clue. But anyone with a power meter who's been training for a while, go, it's not high power output. Calm down.
Normalized power of 240 watts for.
That NP is still very low for someone your body weight, bro. Like, calm down. And it's only for like a 100-mile ride. That's nothing.
7 hours on 3 consecutive days. When you're at that...
Took you 7 hours to do a 100-mile ride. Dude, really?
Much demand. I was able to consume 600 grams of carbohydrates and stay in ketosis.
Oh my God, dude. Like, what do you... Like, dude, if you're eating 600 grams of carbs, you're not doing a keto diet. You know what I mean? Like, what? Oh my god, what is this clowning doing, man? What do you mean? And all those people out there who took Peter's advice over the years and cut their carbs out completely. Meanwhile, Peter T is eating 600 grams of sugars and claiming he's doing keto. No wonder I've never met anyone who had athletic success from taking Peter's advice. No one in the World Tour is taking Peter's advice. Many riders and many coaches are taking my nutritional advice in the World Tour. But no one's taking Peter's advice because, like Milan will say, they'll get dropped and their careers be over. Listen in.
Now,
wow.
I think that's because I'd spent so long adapting. I don't think you can show up and go into ketosis and then a week later eat 600 grams. I mean, I was pushing as hard as I could to see how much of this can I consume. But so there's the other thing to keep in mind, which is at some point the body became flexible enough that I could break all the rules. I could have 200 grams of protein, 600.
Dude, sorry, man. You're just burning more carbs than you can store, and that's putting you in ketosis. It's nothing to do with your fat adaptation. It's just that you're chronically under eating. For someone as heavy as you, 600 grams of carbs plus a 100-mile ride, you're going to be in ketosis, bro. That's not doing a keto diet. That's just called starvation. And congrats to you for doing experiments. But dude, be honest with yourself, man. You're an academic guy. Why mislead people with this bullshit, you know? Just it's crazy. It's a lack of integrity in my eyes.
100 grams of carbohydrate and still maintain beta-hydroxybutyrate levels above 2 to 3 millimolar. Because I think the machinery with which the BHB was made I'd had 2 years of, in fact, this would have been probably 3 years in. This is the summer of...
No, dude, anyone can stay in ketosis as long as they burn the carbohydrates off. I could eat 1,000 grams of carbs in a day and still be bonking and flailing around 100 watts. You know, because I maybe needed 1.1 kilo, maybe 1.5 kilo sugar that day. All right, so no, you didn't crack any code. You just starved yourself, bro, as a cyclist. You know, because you're trying to get as lean as me, blah blah blah. It's like, or as lean as a cyclist wants to be.
13 maybe. So now I'd really been at it for quite a while. And again, biggest regret is not having that. There are lots of athletes out there that I think would be interesting to study. So that's something worth considering.
Sorry to interrupt. The thing what I haven't seen that adaptations in elite athletes is that they cannot afford it. You mentioned that it takes months to get there. You don't.
See, Milan just didn't even understand that. If he tested his riders, who just ate, ate all day carbohydrate, but then that last kilometre of the day, they didn't take enough carbs and they ran out of glycogen and bonked, they would be in ketosis, even though they'd have 1,000 grams of sugar in a day. There's no adaptation phase. All right, anyone can prove that. You can test your ketones. Just test any rider who's bonked on the stage in the Tour de France, and they'll be in ketosis. They'll have ketones. They're not fat adapted. All right, but they'll be in ketosis with the carbohydrate because they didn't have enough carbohydrate. Peter, you didn't adapt, bro. You just underate on those days you tested. You underate carbohydrate. So stop saying, well, I was fat adapted. No, you weren't. You're bonking. You're doing 180 watts and thinking that's high power output. I mean, that is high power output for a keto rider. Someone in ketosis, 180 watts is very high. But for the average rider, it's like an easy cafe ride, bro. I do like, that's my 24-hour pace. Just listening to an audio book, that's what I ride at. And I'm like, 30, 40 kilos lighter than you. So just relax, bro, relax. But it's amazing Milan didn't pick up on that.
Have months because you get dropped in the races. Your performance is very poor. Your contract is going to be trashed. They're not going to renew you. And you're going to feel like crap. Every single athlete who has tried to go, whether you call it like a ketogenic diet or carbohydrate restriction, while training and competing for an event, they fail. That's what I've seen in 25 years. And the reason probably is this, because they didn't have 1 year to say, hey, you're not going to race in 1 year. You're going to train very little. Your mission is to get adapted. That's not the way.
No, Milan, with all due respect, you're wrong, bro. There is no such thing as this adaptation. There's no such thing as this adaptation. You need carbohydrate. And Peter just proved that. He's doing 180 watts in ketosis, which is pitiful. No one adapts. No one can push big watts. Nobody can push big watts in ketosis. You do a keto diet for freaking 20 years. You still can't push watts. You need sugar to push the watts. So Milan didn't pick up on that, and Peter is inexperienced. He's just dribbling nonsense again.
Sports works. But what I see is if you restrict carbohydrates, we do blood analysis a lot. We do this metabolic testing in the laboratory. While these athletes are competing, we see right away there's a catabolic response. The body says, holy crap, what's going on here? I need to survive somehow. So you enter in an evolutionary survival mode. So obviously, your ketones production might increase, your fat oxidation might increase as well, but your protein breakdown increases substantially as well. And we see this in the blood analysis. That's why you see muscle breakdown all the time.
Although, again, it's transient, which, again, speaks to, because if it wasn't transient, I mean, evolution would absolutely demand we preserve protein under long periods of nutrient deprivation, which, of course, is what the carbohydrate restriction is mimicking. But it's this time course that I think is very unusual. And you're right. There's no professional athlete that could take that chance. And again, we were talking about this earlier. It's like there are some people whose entire lives can be built around chat rooms and discussion boards where they can debate these things endlessly. Neither you nor I have the time for that. So I've largely stopped paying attention to this debate, truthfully. But it's always struck with me how long it took to adapt and the price I paid during that adaptation period.
If you were a professional athlete, you would be out of the job.
Yeah. Oh.
I like it. Milan's just like, not even listening to what Peter's saying. He's just saying, dude, you'd be out of the job, and that's true. But Peter, you didn't adapt, bro. You didn't adapt. You're still in ketosis. You're just under eating carbohydrates. So whether you're the fat dude sitting on the sofa, neglecting your kids, not paying attention to your wife, so she's banging the milkman because you're doing a keto diet, you got no energy, you're still in ketosis. Whether you're an elite athlete who's didn't have enough sugar that day and gets dropped in the last climb, because they're bonking, you're still in ketosis, all right? You're not adapted. No one's adapted. You're in ketosis, and your performance is going down, okay? Peter, I think you fail to understand this, and you keep going off in tangents. You're an excellent speaker. You're like a lawyer. You're like you'd be an incredible car salesman because you're so like amicable and like, hey, and you're so chummy and stuff. But you dribble, man. You could be a Los Angeles car dealer, top seller in LA. You could move to Brentwood, and just all the lonely housewives would love you because you're a great speaker and you're like, hey, chummy, and you tell people bacon's a superfood. Like, who's not gonna love you in LA, man, or Kansas? They're gonna love you, bro. It's hilarious. No one adapts, Peter. The performance is dead, regardless if you're Homer Simpson, or frickin' Tadej Pogacar. Your performance dies on a keto diet. There's no debate about that. Period. Full stop.
Oh, absolutely.
And this is why I think that I have never seen that, because sooner or later the athlete, they hit the wall. They just cannot finish races, or they just like, hey, what's going on here? And then that's when they have to go back. And we see this quite often. Athletes don't always listen to us. They always go to the blogs and see things, internet, or they find what the neighbor is telling them. And a lot of people try many diets. And the tendency now, and it was before also, was to restrict carbohydrates. And again, I really think that you can adapt because the human physiology is a wonderful machine. But do you have the time to adapt while you're a competitor?
No, Milan, you are wrong. Respectfully, you are wrong. No one adapts, bro. And you probably know this, but you don't want to like put Pete on the spot. You know this, dude. No one's pushing out gun watts. No one's pushing out PR watts in ketosis. All right. No one. Nobody ever is doing that. Oh, but Durianrider, no, show me. No one's doing that, man. I mean, it's one thing to say, oh, no, it's possible. Okay, show me, man. Like, oh, I know a cat that can build a Lamborghini and win NASCAR. A house cat. Okay, really, bro. Show me then, all right? I know, I got a friend who's in ketosis and he can push out 500 watts FTP. Yeah, he can kill it, mate. Yeah, show me. Show me, bro. You know what I mean? I ride my bike so fast, like, I got a speeding fine with 400k an hour. Yeah, okay, bro, show me. There's no one adapting. No one's adapting, bro. They're just bonking. They're doing pitiful watts. I've met so many cyclists over the years who go, I'm doing ketosis, and it's like, great, let's put the power up. Boom, they're dead. They're dropped. When I mean they're dead, their performance is dead. It's no one's pushing watts, man. You can't push watts in ketosis. Your performance suffers. And you feel like shit. and your immune system's suppressed because your human immune system runs on sugar, and you can't sleep properly at night because your serotonin is so low, your cortisol is so high because your body's in fight or flight, and life just sucks. You get big black circles under your eyes. Look at Peter Attia. Look how tired he looks, man. The dude's cranking the caffeine. He still looks tired. Compare his face to my face, my eyes to his. Right? It was about the same age. Peter, mate, what are you doing, bro? Like, damn, man, damn.
Competitive athlete. That's what I have a lot of thoughts that I don't think so.
Yeah, and again, I think the discussion is interesting and academic, but of course, in the end, I still think carbohydrate restriction is a great tool for anyone who's not trying to win the Tour de France. I think.
Why is it a great tool, Peter? We've got over like 5 billion lean people on the planet who don't restrict their carbs and they're very slim. You're not slim. Well, you have to starve yourself and you're still not lean, bro. You're still not shredded. You know, I look down, I can see my abs. You can't. You know, and if in the discussion of weight loss, isn't that the goal? Wouldn't you love to be as shredded as me? But you can't because you starve yourself because you don't want to give up your bacon. You don't want to give up your fatty cakes. You want to blame sugar for the fat versus the fat you eat because that's the fat you wear. So come on, man. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you know better than this. Get some results, Peter. Maintain some results. And then we'll take what you're saying seriously.
That's where people sometimes get hung up, right? It's if you want to win an Olympic gold medal, there are very few sports in which you could probably do that on a ketogenic diet.
Dude, there's no sports. No sports. I mean, maybe darts. Is that an Olympic sport? But even then, you'll be better in sugar in your brain. Damn, man, he's just tripping.
And if you want to be the best cyclist or runner or swimmer on the planet, very hard to do that on a ketogenic diet.
Don't do it. It's not very hard. Peter, it's not very hard to be the best cyclist, runner, swimmer on a keto. It's not very hard. Bro, Peter, respectfully, bro, it's fucking impossible, bro. All right, it's not very hard for me to, jump over 10 houses. All right, it's not very hard for me to jump off a 20-story building and land on my feet and ninja roll. It's fucking impossible, bro. All right, it's impossible. I'll die trying. People will kill their performances trying. It's not going to happen, bro. Peter, bro, you give me laughs, mate. You've been giving me laughs the last decade, and I hope we can do the podcast one time. Mate, you crack me up, seriously.
Diet. The good news is, by the way, if you're at that level, your mitochondria are so remarkable that your carbohydrate tolerance is unbelievable.
Oh, here we go. Carbohydrate tolerance. Bro, the body's designed to run on sugar. Fat is the issue, bro. Fat tolerance no one has. You don't have it, I don't have it, no one has it. The fat we eat is the fat we wear, and excess dietary fat blocks our insulin receptor site. That's what causes insulin resistance, bro.
Where it comes back to, and I think where the biggest opportunity is the person who is not metabolically very healthy, who thinks they need to drink a liter of Gatorade an hour, and no, actually that person can absolutely be on a carbohydrate-restricted diet, and they can exercise, and yes, maybe they're...
And they're going to feel like shit, and they're going to go, what am I doing this for? And they're the ones who become Karens and Kens, the downers, man. Big black circles under their eyes, feeling depressed, crushing their life performance because they think sugar's bad, carbs are bad, keto for the win. Peter, you're killing people's performances, bro.
Their performance initially is less than what it would be if they still mainlined all the carbohydrates in the world.
I like the word he uses, mainlined. You're a junkie, mainlining. Peter is immaculate. He's an immaculate speaker, man. He's just so, damn, he's definitely car salesman. He's car salesman of the year.
But in the long run, they're going to produce a much more metabolically healthy phenotype, even though they won't.
The phenotype? No one even knows what the phenotype is, but Peter will throw that because, I don't. That's what Peter does. He's like a squid. Like there's a big school of mackerel chasing the school of squid, and Peter Attia's a squid, and the mackerel gets close to bite, and the Peter Attia squid just goes poof. Here's a bit of ink for you, mackerel, and people are like, phenotype. Beta oxyhydrobutane. They don't what? And meanwhile Pete's just swimming along in this little ocean of BS, and the mackerel can't bite onto him. So he's very effective at that. Whenever he gets cornered, he throws out these little squid ink words.
Won't be in the top 0.1% of athletes. Who will?
No, exactly. I agree. And the thing with the elite athletes too is that yes, and this is kind of what I keep bringing up all the time, There's no population on Earth who has as many carbohydrates and simple sugars as these athletes by a landslide, right? These guys at the Tour de France, for example.
Yeah, tell people, like, let's take a long stage of the tour. So a 250-kilometer stage that has, say, 4 high category climbs and 1 HC climb. So 1 climb beyond category.
Yeah, so these people, they take...
First of all, how long would it take them to complete 250-kilometer stage with 4 high...
Yeah, that Pete, Milan was trying to make a point, and you come in and then you add all these like meaningless things. Just say 250k stage, just say a 6-hour stage in the Hip Mountains. All right, I mean, like, who cares if it's 3 or 4 categories? Like, what? Milan's trying to make a point, and you just come in and just smoke it over.
High category and 1 non-category, which means it's just a brutal climb.
Yeah, it would be more like a 200, and it would be like a 5.5 hours.
And how long would that take you or I to ride right now?
Man, that would take us 2 hours more easily.
Yeah, and how long would it take?
Or an hour and a half. Or
take me 2 hours more if I'm lucky. How long would that take a person who doesn't ride their bike much?
2 days.
Yeah.
I mean, 14 hours, something like that.
Peter, bro, you're not going to be 2 hours behind, dude. You're going to be like 2 days behind in ketosis. You're going to be walking your bike up the steep climbs, bro. Let's be honest. Like, I'm going to be 2 hours. No, bro, you're not going to be 2 hours behind, bro. You're going to be 2 days behind, man.
Because they will have to do multiple stops.
And at the HC, they might not even make the climb.
Yeah. Or much slower. Yeah. While they do these climbs at the Tour de France, it depends on the weight, but they go between 6 and 6.5 watts per kilogram. Let's say a person of 70 kilos, which is...
70 kilos is probably
154 pounds. So that would be about, 420, 450 watts. So we cannot do that. Like a normal, well-trained person who exercises regularly can maybe do that in 300 watts. But a person who doesn't train can do that in 150 watts only. So that's a long, long time.
And their weight is usually significantly higher on the climb.
Exactly.
So that day, it's hard.
Is that little dig Milan just did at Peter by saying, like, Peter's saying high power output 180 watts, and Milan's like a person who doesn't train, everyday person, does 150. That's a little dig, a little bit of revenge there. That was good.
Hard to believe they can do that in 5 to 6 hours, by the way, but they would consume how much on that day, both on the bike and off the bike?
So normally what they do, and I haven't published this, but we keep track of this all the time. We keep track of the amount of carbohydrates per hour. We keep track of the breakfast, what they eat on the bike, after the bike, recovery. Right away, we have these protocols. And these protocols are very up to what they need or what we think they need, and also based on what their demands are, because they're the ones who they need it, And again, as I said earlier, I've seen athletes even restricting carbohydrates in their races, and they get totally destroyed. So these guys, they consume a total of about 12 grams per kilogram of body weight per day of carbohydrates. So if you're 155 pounds, which could be an average weight, let's say 70 kilos, we're talking about close to 150 grams a day of carbohydrates.
More than 150. You said how much? 12?
850.
850.
Sorry,
Yeah.
About
Sorry, I thought you said
850,
150. Okay.
Which is 850 grams of carbohydrates.
That's that's almost 4,000 calories of carbs.
3,500 calories of carbs. And out of those, at least a good 30% of those to 50 is simple carbohydrates. Let's say 30% of those. So we're talking about these people are having daily about 1,500 grams of sugar. 1,500 calories of sugar. So almost...
Give me an example of what type of sugar they're consuming, like gels and goo.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, come on. I use the word, dude, what's it with gel? What's that? Maltodextrin, fructose, glucose, sucrose. Let's use the words of it. So all of a sudden, Pete's going from sciencey words to gel, drinks. Dude, let's be specific, objective. I love how Pete just flips it like that. He goes from tech words, and then he goes to simple. He's just a master confuser. He's a master at that. He knows what he's doing.
The gels, the goos, the drinks, and then obviously at breakfast, at lunch and dinner, they're more complex. But during the race, in the first part, we do more solid versus liquid, but towards the end of the race, we do more liquid, so more pure sugar, simply because it's absorbed faster, and that's why you need more energy. But yeah, these people, again, they do about 1,500 calories a day just in sugar. Imagine pretty much your entire daily caloric intake of a normal person, a bowl of sugar. If you want to do this, if you go to a nutritionist and you say, I want to do this,
look,
they will shoot you.
if I did that, I'd have diabetes in a month.
Of course.
So then, like, bro, yeah, you would, but you would, Pete. Actually, you would, bro, but not from the sugar, because you're already insulin resistant. You're literally insulin resistant. You're insulin resistant, Peter, from your high-fat diet. So it wouldn't be the sugar giving you insulin resistance. It would be the sugar highlighting your insulin resistance. Peter, you eat so much fat, you've blocked up, you've gunked up all your insulin receptor sites to the point where just consuming some sugar makes you insulin resistant. You can't even metabolize sugar properly because your diet is so unhealthy. It's so high in healthy fats, which to the extent you're eating it, there's become unhealthy fats. Okay? And Milan even agrees with him. But I don't think Milan was really paying attention that much to that question. Or that statement, rather.
Of course. And we know that they don't have it. In fact, this is the healthiest metabolically population in the planet.
Now,
there we go. So let's see if Peter picks up on that or if he just blazes right over. Let's listen.
the irony of it is on two...
Oh, the irony of it is... No, Peter, these people eat the most sugar on the planet and they have the best metabolism, the best mitochondrial health. Okay? Explain that, Peter. And it's not the exercise... Because look at people out there who... Look at you. You exercise a lot. But your mitochondria ain't efficient. And you still have insulin resistance. Okay? Let's listen to the BS Pete stays now. I'm looking forward to this one.
Twofold. One, in many other ways, they're wildly unhealthy. The rate of catabolism, the bone density loss...
Bro, but that's not from the sugar. That's from the corticosteroid abuse. All right? That's from running super low body weights. Which, ironically, they only can get on super high sugar diet.
that these guys experience over the Tour de France is debilitating. I mean, these...
It's not debilitating, bro. They finish the Tour de France and they go Olympics and win gold, bro. All right, so come on, man. Debilitating. How many Tadej Pogacar? What happened last year at the Olympics in China? Was it China? Japan, Tokyo. All right, what happened in Tokyo Olympics right after the Tour de France? Dude, are you dreaming or what? Did you see any debilitated... Was the gold medalists, the silver medalists, and the bronze medalists, just fresh from the Tour de France, were they debilitated? So debilitated, they won Olympic gold medals, bronze medals, silver medals, straight from the Tour de France. Come on, Peter, man. Oh my God, you're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot on this topic.
These guys, they lose so much muscle, they lose so much bone density.
What? Look at the Olympics, bro. Look at Tokyo Olympics after the Tour de France. Where's the bone and muscle loss, bro? You know what I mean? What are you dreaming, bro? You're dreaming. These guys take corticosteroids to lose muscle. A lot of them do. Especially the bigger ones.
The other thing we see is, for many of these athletes, the transition out of being at that level to being
normal,
civilian
yes.
again is devastating.
Really? Really? Devastating, bro. What about Phil Gaimon? What about Cookie Man? Cookie Man's putting out his best power ever as a retired athlete. So you're trying to say, like, where's Cookie Man's obesity? Yeah, a lot of cyclists, they get fat and burnt out. But that's from drug abuse. You know, if you're a natural athlete in a career and then you retire and get on the gear, you'll extend it a lot longer. Or if you're just a natty athlete the whole way. But with these people, these super champions of yesteryear abuse the stimulants, abuse the carb restriction, then they rebound out. You see that in bodybuilding, man. You see people do carb restriction and get lean, which is dumb, and then they balloon out. They have to take metformin and stuff. Look at you, Peter. Look at you. You're not lean, and you restrict your carbs. And you've been restricting your carbs for over a decade, and you're still not lean. So just use yourself as an example, okay? Don't make up these imaginary people, please.
Because especially, I actually read an article on this once. I wonder if I could find it. I believe that the answer was more common in males than females, where the rebound effect to becoming metabolically unhealthy was unbelievable. It's very hard to turn that spigot off.
Really? What about Lance Armstrong? You know what I mean? What about Lance Armstrong? What about George Hincapie? What about Tyler Hamilton? What about Frankie Andreo? Okay? What about Christian Vandervelde? What about Chris Horner? What about all these big name ex-pros? What about Mario Cipollini? Okay? What about Alberto Contador? Okay? Where are these obese cyclists you talk about? And you're trying to claim that they all like that. But no, bro. All these guys are still ripped, lean, and shredded. There's a Veggie Berzine, and there's a few guys out there, Jan Ulrich and stuff, who are famous for extreme calorie restriction diets, cutting carbs out, and they rebound. Look what happened to Jan Ulrich. Jan Ulrich would cut out all his sugars, cut out his carbs, trying to do keto, crash his bike, injure his knee, and feel like crap. Jan Ulrich, one of the most talented racing cyclists of all time, a victim to keto diets, okay? So please, Peter Attia, you know what I mean? Speak some truth, bro. Speak some truth. You know cycling pretty well. You've been around a long time. Speak some truth, mate.
Of you're basically a non-stop eating machine, and then all of a sudden you're on the path to having diabetes 3 years, 5 years, 10 years after being the fittest person in the world.
Yeah.
Really? Who Pete? Name a name. Name a name. Lance Armstrong? Alberto Contador? Carlos Sastre? Yeah? Stuart O'Grady? Cadell Evans? I don't see any diabetics, mate. Come on. Back up your claims with some names. Back up your claims from your names. I could think of maybe a Veggie Berzine back in the day. Biana Reese for a little bit there, you know? But again, these were people, if you read their books, they restricted carbohydrate. They restricted carbohydrate and then they rebounded out, okay? So it's the people who fear the sugar the most are the ones who rebound the hardest. Peter, come on, name some names.
And that happened to me when I quit cycling. Between school, work, I was working and traveling.
The reality is if you stay low fat for life, you stay low body fat. That's simple as that. Stay low fat, you're good. Stay high fat, then you have to restrict. And your life sucks. End of the day, that's the one. Thank you, Peter, for putting on the great podcast there. Thank you, Milan, for joining that. Great, insightful stuff. But you can sort of see the fear of sugar, man. The fear of sugar is killing people's performances. And guys like Tadej Pogacar, who are just sugar lovers, absolutely crushing it out there. Van der Poel, sugar lover, crushing it out there. Simple as that.